Hello, everybody. It's time for another episode of Stories from Your Gaffer. I'm Clint McElroy, and this is my wife, Carol. Say hello, Carol.
Hello.
And we are up to Chapter 2. We are reading Neil Gaiman's Coraline. And if you weren't with us last evening, then you know you don't have to turn this into any authorities. Neil Gaiman has given blanket permission to anybody that wants to share his stories and books. And since we're pretty big Neil Gaiman fans, you liked that.
Are we going to have to say this every time?
No, just no.
Okay.
Is it bothering you?
No, it's just
Good
disclosure.
Lord. Go ahead, take over. Take over the whole show. All right, here we go. Chapter 2. You have yours right there.
Maybe I shouldn't read since I'm taking over the whole show. The next day it had stopped raining, but a thick white fog had lowered over the house. I'm going for a walk, said Coraline.
Don't go too far, said her mother, and dress up warmly.
Coraline put on her blue coat with a hood, her red scarf, and her yellow Wellington boots, like Paddington Bear. She went out.
Miss Spink was walking her dogs. Hello, Caroline, said Miss Spink. Rotten weather.
Yes.
I played Portia once, said Miss Spink. Miss Forcible talks about her Ophelia, but it was my Portia that came to see when we trod the boards. Miss Spink was bundled up in pullovers and cardigans, so she seemed more small and circular than ever. She looked like a large, fluffy egg.
Coraline continued walking through the garden in gray mist she had always kept inside of the house. After about 10 minutes of walking, she found herself back where she had started. The hair over her eyes was limp and wet, and her face felt damp.
Ahoy, Caroline, called the crazy old man upstairs.
Oh, hello, said Coraline. She could hardly see the old man through the mist. He walked down the steps outside of the house that led up past Coraline's front door to the door of his flat. He walked down very slowly. Coraline waited at the bottom of the steps.
The mice do not like the mist, he told her. It makes their whiskers droop.
I don't like the mist much either, admitted Coraline.
The old man leaned down so close that the bottom of his mustache tickled Coraline's ear. The mice have a message for you, he whispered.
Coraline didn't know what to say.
The message is this. Don't go through the door. He paused. Does that mean anything to you?
No, said Coraline.
The old man shrugged. They are funny, the mice. They get things wrong. They got your name wrong, you know. They kept saying Coraline, not Caroline, not Caroline at all.
He picked up a milk bottle from the bottom of the step and started back up to his attic flat. Coraline went indoors. Her mother was working in her study. Her mother's study smelt of flowers. What shall I do? Asked Coraline.
When do you go back to school? Asked her mother.
Next week, said Coraline.
Said her mother. I suppose I shall have to get you new school clothes. Remind me, dear, or I'll forget. And she went back to typing things on the computer screen.
What shall I do? Repeated Coraline.
Draw something. Her mother passed her a sheet of paper and a ballpoint pen.
Coraline tried drawing the mist. After 10 minutes of drawing, she still had a white sheet of paper with a written in one corner in a slightly wiggly letters. She grunted, passed it to her mother.
Very modern, dear, said Coraline's mother.
Coraline crept into the drawing room and tried to open the old door in the corner. It was locked once more. She supposed her mother must have locked it again. She shrugged. Coraline went to see her father.
He had his back to the door as he typed. Go away, he said cheerfully as she walked in.
I'm bored, she said.
Learn how to tap dance, he suggested without turning around.
Coraline shook her head. Why don't you play with me? She asked.
Busy, he said. Working, he added. He still hadn't turned around to look at her. Why don't you go bother Miss Spink and Miss Forcible?
How many of y'all's parents have told you they're busy when you wanted to play in the last month?
Not mine.
Not mine. Coraline put on her coat and pulled up her hood and went out of the house. She went down the steps. She rang the door of Miss Spink and Miss Forcible's flat. Coraline could hear a frenzied woofing as the Scotty dogs ran out into the hall. After a while, Miss Spink opened the door.
"Oh, it's you, Caroline."
Coraline passed Miss Spink her cup. Miss Spink peered short-sightedly at the black tea leaves in the bottom. She pursed her lips.
"You know, Caroline," she said after a while, "you are in terrible danger." Miss Forcible snorted, put down her knitting. "Don't be silly, April. Stop scaring the child. Your eyes are going. Pass me the cup, child."
Coraline carried the cup over to Miss Forcible. Miss Forcible looked directly into it and shook her head and looked into it again.
"Oh dear," she said. "You are right, April. She is in danger." "See, Miriam," said Miss Spink triumphantly, "my eyes are as good as they ever were."
"What am I in danger from?" asked Coraline.
Mrs. Spink and Forcible stared at her blankly. "It didn't say," said Miss Spink. "Tea leaves aren't reliable for that kind of thing. Not really. They're good for generalities, but not for specifics."
"What should I do then?" asked Caroline, who was slightly alarmed by this.
"Don't wear green in your dressing room," suggested Miss Spink. "Or mention the Scottish play," added Miss Forcible.
Coraline wondered why so few of the adults she had met made any sense. She sometimes wondered who they thought they were talking to.
"And be very, very careful," said Miss Spink. She got up from her armchair and went over to the fireplace. On the mantelpiece was a small jar, and Miss Spink took off the top of the jar and began to pull things out of it. There was a tiny china duck, a thimble, a strange little brass coin, 2 paper clips, and a stone with a hole in it.
She passed Coraline the stone with a hole in it. "What's it for?" asked Coraline. The hole went all the way through the middle of the stone. She held it up to the window and looked through it.
"It might help," said Miss Spink. "They're good for bad things sometimes."
Coraline put on her coat and said goodbye to Mrs. Spink and Forcible and to the dogs and went outside. The mist hung like blindness around the house. She walked slowly to the steps, up to her family's flat, and then stopped and looked around. In the midst, it was a ghost world. In danger? Coraline thought to herself. It sounded exciting. It didn't sound like a bad thing. Not really. Coraline went back up the steps, her fist closed tightly around her new stone.
So that's chapter 2 of Coraline. That brings me to the portion of showing pictures. Now, I messed up. Showed a picture of Griffin yesterday, forgetting that today was his birthday. So we're going to double up on Griffin, just because it is his birthday. Happy birthday, Griffin.
Happy birthday, Griffin.
And so these are 2 pictures. I don't know what grade that is. 19, no, doesn't have a year on it. I don't know what grade that is.
So cute.
He's got that little evil grin. And then this was Griffin when we did Peter Pan. I directed Peter Pan, and he was in it. He was Toodles.
I like his hair.
He's a lost boy. Yeah. Yeah, he had some serious hair back then. So happy birthday to Dido.
Happy birthday.
Love you very much. Okay, we'll meet you back here tomorrow evening, 5:30, for another chapter of Coraline. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and choose joy. Mwah.